What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today I want to talk about something with the US men's national team that's been bugging me for a while now. And right now it looks like the team's going to qualify for the World Cup. But that's it. In my opinion, the team has really underperformed throughout the entire World Cup qualifying campaign, and honestly, even in tournaments like the Nations League and the Gold Cup, our performances haven't been up to standard. And after a halfway decent performance where we scraped by against Mexico, I feel like we're at a bit of a crossroads as a fan base. And it's to support this team unconditionally or hold them to a higher standard. And what I mean by that is, when I look at the unconditional support for the team, I understand it. I mean, this team should qualify and they look better than ever. And even if things aren't perfect, it might be considered unreasonable to hold them to a much higher standard. It's kind of new water for the team with how many good European players we have, and there are some people who are calling us toxic for demanding more. I mean, look, we're winning trophies, we're going to make the World Cup, hopefully, knock on wood, and I can understand that argument. And at the same time, there's a different side of the fan base that will not criticize the players at all and use Greg Berhalter as a shield for criticizing players. If someone has a bad game, it's because of Berhalter. He screwed up. If we miss chances or if we aren't creative enough, it's Berhalter who's not good enough. And don't get me wrong, I don't like the guy. I've wanted him fired for a long time. I mean, a long time. And he only got the job through nepotism, and I don't like him. But at the same time, he isn't making us miss chances. And while I don't think he's making this group better than it can be, he's not actively making us worse. And at some point, we have to have that conversation about our players. And if that conversation ends with everything is fine and we're dumb to expect more, keep being patient or wait until the Federation fixes up, if that's how that conversation ends, I'll adjust my thinking. But at what point is it that we start holding the individual players to a higher standard? Because when I'm talking about a standard, I don't mean, oh, look, we're competing with Mexico, we're doing well in CONCACAF. No, let's look at things from a Premier League standard. Because I think having a good Premier League level player might be enough to get us to the World Cup. Or to help us win the World Cup. We'll need a bit of luck, but I look at somebody like Portugal in 2016. They won the Euro with Jose Font, who's a good Premier League level center back. But that's it. So, I honestly think we put this team in the Premier League right now, we get relegated. Listen, that's an opinion, but I'm a big fan of Crystal Palace as well. So I'm just going down our teams and comparing them to Crystal Palace. Goalkeeper, Zach Steffen, Matt Turner, Ethan Horvath. I'll take Vicente Guaita over all of them. Guaita's a very good shot stopper, probably as good with his feet as everybody, and commands his box. I take him over anybody. Honestly, I might take Jack Butland over everybody we have as well. Then I go to center back. Gahey, Anderson, they both look very good. They've been a solid pairing. I definitely take them over Zimmerman and Robinson. Listen, John Brooks, I want him in the national team. Wouldn't want him on Crystal Palace. I don't think he's good enough. He's good with the ball at his feet, but his athleticism is concerning. And then Chris Richards, I like Chris Richards. I think he's going to be a good player, but he's still a young guy. I wouldn't take him over Gahey, and I wouldn't put him in over Anderson as well. Then left back, Tyreek Mitchell, he's in the Premier League. Anthony Robinson's not. Tyreek Mitchell, he just made the England squad. Jedi, he had to come play with America. There's a reason for that. I go to right back. I think Dest makes it at right back, yeah. Dest, I really like what he's got going for it offensively. But at the same time, when you look at Serginho Dest, his defensive woes are noteworthy. And you have to take them into account. And at this point, when I'm looking at players and looking at their ceilings, I'm looking at Dest and I'm looking at Marcus Alonso, the Chelsea wingback. I think that's as good as we can reasonably expect Dest to get. Maybe he'll take strides forward, and this is unless he takes those strides forward defensively, which he can, but the way things are going, I don't expect that. And I'm putting Dest in this team at right back, but if Nathan Ferguson didn't screw up his knees that badly, or was it his hip, And if Nathan Ferguson had been playing this whole time, would he be in over Dest? I don't know. I feel like he might be. But at the moment, I would have Dest in this team. Defensive mid, I'm taking Kouyaté over Tyler Adams, which might sound shocking, but Adams hasn't been getting into the Leipzig team. And he was getting dropped towards the end of Jesse March's run, and Jesse had been working with him for a long time. Like, he's a solid defensive player, but at a European level, he is limited technically, which is weird to say because he's one of our better technical players. But that's the standard, and I would take someone like Kouyaté over Adams. And going to the midfield, let's say Conor Gallagher and Eze. Conor Gallagher is better than any midfielder we have by a long shot. Like, watching that guy run around, dude, he is immense. I would take Eze over Yunus Musa, which might sound kind of intense, but I'm looking at what Eze can do, and Musa, he's a very solid player, but I don't think he has the creativity that Eze has. I would probably go with Weston McKennie over Eze. I'm not positive about that. Weston is probably, not as creative, has more defensive work rate. I'd hesitate to call him a better athlete. Like, this is something I want to talk about a bit more, but, like, different video. Like, I feel like we use American standards of athletes for, like, soccer when we really shouldn't. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if we took LeBron James and put him on a soccer field, he wouldn't look that athletic. He'd look really uncoordinated, and I'd feel like he'd be cramping up after, like, 60 minutes. But, I don't know. That's just an opinion I have. Weston McKennie, I would definitely take him over it. I would take him. I wouldn't definitely take him, but I would take him over Eze. Then I go forward, and our wings. This is our best position, right? I'd go Zaha and Elise over anybody we have. And that's a tough conversation, but I look at Zaha and what he's been doing in the Premier League for so long, how he could make goals happen, how he was a one-man team for so long, and I don't think he's declined since then. I'm not sure if Pulisic can do it. In fact, we saw during the last World Cup qualifying cycle, and he's not improved since then, that he really can't. And I don't know, I wouldn't take him over Zaha. Gio, he looks really good. He might be somebody who's amazing in the future. Same with Musa, to be honest, but it's might. And at this point, I look at someone like Michael Olise, and I think he's more of a sure thing. Like, I watch that guy and how silky he is on the ball, and like how he can take on players. His shooting, like, there are some times when I get like, I cover this too much and like I get kind of jaded. Watching Olise play reminds me why I love this sport, and that's about the highest praise I think I can give somebody. Then up top, I'd go with Edouard over any American. I'd honestly go with Jordan Ayew, Mateta. I might even take Christian Benteke. And trust me, I do not rate Christian Benteke. But that's my feelings on this group. Like, compared to a good Premier League team, but not a team that's threatening to make Europe at the moment. And by the way, we should have given Patrick Vieira a look for our manager job, because he's been looking great. And he was in New York City FC for a while. Like, why we didn't give Patrick Vieira a call while we were searching, like, well, I think we know why, but it was dumb. And, like, I'm seriously looking through this team, like, what's the ceiling for these players that we reasonably expect? Like, Pulisic? Honestly, like, do we think he'll ever be as good as Diego Jota is now? Like, seriously. At the rate that he's going, do we expect that? Tyler Adams? He needs to get better on the ball. Do we expect him to become a player better than Chuck Kouyaté? I'm not sure at this moment. Weston McKennie, he's looking good, and I think he's our best player by far. But he gets a setback whenever he hits form. Like, sticking with the Juventus as a comparison, will he reach Marchisio's level? Marchisio was very good for a long time. I don't think Weston McKennie's there yet. Can he hit it? We'll have to see. Dest, if he doesn't improve his defending, Marcus Alonso, that's his ceiling. Yunus, Gio, they both look very good, but they're still very clearly prospects. And, like, at this point, like, Gio at Dortmund, does he look any better than Dembele did when he was there? Or Pulisic? Because as good as he can be, like, I don't think we should reasonably expect him to do anything that those guys didn't. At the moment, like, I can't expect him to be better than those guys. Maybe next year he'll really hit form, but at the moment, I don't know. And Musa, like, I don't know. I'm grateful to have him, but you can't tell me that when he was growing up, he didn't want to be Paul Scholes or Frank Lampard or Steve Gerrard. So the fact that he chose the American team, that's a little concerning in regards to his potential. Especially when I already talked about Conor Gallagher and how good he is. Like, would he be able to break into the England squad? I don't know. Someone like Chris Richards, he looks really good. Him and Weston are probably my favorite prospects at the moment. Like, Chris Richards, he has to take that next step to become dominant, though. I think he definitely can, but it hasn't happened yet. And Tim Weah, like, at this point, he's still a bench player on a good, not great French team. And yes, they won the title last year, but I think they win the title without him, too. That's not even going into the mediocre MLS players. And this is a conversation that I don't think I've ever heard had about this American team. At least not in our circle. Because comparing the squad to what the actual standard it would be to threaten for a World Cup run. And should this be a conversation we're having about our players? And this is a real question. I want to know if we want to hold our players to a higher standard. Because it's not something I really want to do. Like, when I'm talking about holding players to a higher standard, okay. Do you guys remember last game? Gio went on that amazing run. He was, like, going through Mexico players, like, easily. He took on, like, 5 of them before eventually losing the ball. Everybody was talking about how good that was. Berhalter, Reyna himself, like, I think Pulisic was. And they were joking around after the game. And we dropped points. Like, just as, like, a competitor, are we okay with that? Like, should we be holding them to a standard? And that's the question, because I don't want to be like that guy who's like, oh, how are you guys joking around like that? You just lost. Like, that's not a fun thing to do. And I cover the USA team. You think I want to make negative videos every day? Like, it's awful. That puts you in a bad mood for the rest of the day. Like, I don't want to be doing this, but if we want to take that next step and reach the next level, like, dude, like, only players who are real underachievers are constantly posting about how well they did after they failed to win a game. Like, I'm just gonna say that. And, you know, this is why I want to have this conversation. And if the answer is no, we don't want to hold this team to a higher standard, I'm okay with that. I will scale back criticism. I will definitely be talking about the Premier League a lot more. I hope to do that anyway. And I'll probably start talking about the college game a lot more. I mean, I know the standard isn't that great over there, but dude, those games are really chill. There are a couple of players on there who I think could make the Union squad as a homegrown. Like, they're in the Union Academy, then they went to Louisville. Like, dude, watch a Louisville game if you got ESPN Plus in the fall. Like, those games are chill. They're fun. I'll probably start talking about that. Like, if the answer is we don't want to hold this team to a standard, I'm okay with that. But if the answer is we should be holding this team to a higher standard and we want to take the hard road, we should start doing that. Because I don't think we're going to be anywhere close to threatening for a World Cup in 2026 at this rate. And it's going to be tough. We have to criticize not just the manager, not just the federation, but the players and the fan base. Like me, I'm not perfect. Dude, you want to hear some bad takes I had? After the Panama game, Tim Weah. I said we shouldn't be in the team. I would rather have Nicholas Giacchini. That was terrible. You know, I was upset after the Panama game, but still, that was a terrible take. Before the Nations League, I went on a pretty decent, tirade. Ethan Horvath should not be in the team. He's not been playing at all, and I don't think he'll be ready at all if Stefan gets hurt. Those are two things that I said that were objectively wrong. Hold me to that standard. I'm okay with that. I make mistakes. You think I'm perfect? Jesus. But the standard does have to be there. And I don't want this to sound condescending or anything, because it is a real question. It's one that I've been struggling with. I think from the way I'm talking, you guys know which way I'm leaning, but I think we all want this group to succeed. It's just a question of how much. And yeah, that's all I really have to talk about this. See ya.